Oh, here we go.
All right. Hi,
Oh, there we
Katie.
go.
Come on in.
Come on in.
We have a seat for, yeah, we have a seat for you right there. We were just about to get started.
Okay. You want me to say, call the meeting to order?
Let's call the meeting to
Okay.
order. Okay. All right, and I'll just do a roll call, and hopefully I say your names mostly correctly. Commissioner Berezinski, did I get that right? Berezinski, okay. Commissioner Dolzall.
Yep.
Commissioner Moriarty, Commissioner Parson, absent. Commissioner Dobbs,
Here.
Commissioner Lee or Litke, which would you rather go by?
You can say Litke, that's fine.
Litke, okay,
I'm here.
Commissioner Litke and Commissioner Owens.
Here.
All right, and you have a quorum. We don't have a consent agenda because you didn't have any previous minutes to approve. But we can see, is there anybody, there's nobody in the room, but is there anybody online who would like to speak during community concerns and comments? Okay, we have Joel Litke. All right, you should be able to speak, Joel.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm very excited to see you guys get going here. This has been something we've been working on for a while through the council, so looking forward to see what you guys have here, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joel. Delete Joel.
There we go. Okay. And there's no other hands, so I will, we'll move on. And sorry to be monopolizing the conversation here, but I'm going to give you a quick presentation, a kind of a welcome and introduction to committee membership. Some of you may have been on nonprofit boards before, and being on a city or county or a local government type of a commission is a little different. So I'll go through this pretty quickly, but stop me if you have questions.
Okay.
Share my screen. All right, whoops. Okay. I don't have my microphone. I'm gonna go back and forth. So committee and commission introduction, and we do want to say thank you for volunteering to serve. There's so much that happens in Estacada that would not happen if it were not for volunteers. So. Okay, council authority and city codes. This is, I can email this out to you actually also, because I don't want to just read it to you, but just to kind of highlight a couple of things here. The city council is the legislative and policymaking body of the city. And boards are appointed by the council's authority, except for like planning commission and budget committee. Those have state direction to have those. The city code is what outlines your authority and functions as a board appointed by the council. No board member can expend funds or obligate the city for payment without prior approval. And that would be, we would ask you to do, we'll put together you'll put together a budget for next year's fiscal year, but it wouldn't be like just asking me for permission to spend money. It would be like an agreement of all of you if you're going to do an event or implement some kind of safety measure. And you have a council liaison right now. It is Councillor McElroy, but he is coaching football for a couple more weeks. So he'll be at your next meeting, I believe. What you'll be doing on an annual basis is preparing an annual work plan. The council sets goals in January, and then you can look at those goals and put together a work plan out of that. That'll be presented. Can't remember if it's March or April. I think it's April. You present your work plan and your budget request, and usually the council is really supportive of the work that the committees do. Each quarter, you'll send somebody to report to the council on activities. And sometimes there's a lot to report. Sometimes it's just a little, sometimes you're doing the background work, and other times, maybe you've had something, an event or, something that seems of greater magnitude to report on, but they always like to hear what you're talking about, working on, thinking about. And then you'll elect a chair and a vice chair. at the first meeting of the year, but we'll go, so that would be in January, but since we're just going to be electing one now, they might go all the way through next year, if you want to do it that way. And the chair, when we get to the communications section, we'll talk about that a little bit more, but the chair needs to be somebody who can monitor the committee email. There's not a lot of email that comes in from community members, but we're setting up an email box for this commission. And if anybody like looked on the city website and wanted to communicate with you via email, they'd send it there. So the chair would be doing that, and then also running the meetings and being kind of the go-between. Like if a member of the committee wanted to request something to be on the agenda, they could send that request to the chair, who could work with me, and we could get it on the agenda versus just all of us randomly talking to each other. So, okay. So here's your, the Traffic and Public Safety Committee purpose is in the city code. It's pretty high level statements. And so you can take those and develop, your priorities. One of the things that Lieutenant Mendoza and I were talking about previously is that maybe we want to work on putting together your top 10 or 12 priorities and put those in, maybe put a whole group of priorities together. Then you guys can work to put them in an order of highest priority to lowest, or maybe easy, what is that called? Lower hanging fruit. You could do real quick, however you want to prioritize them. And then we can start working our way through those over the year. But yeah, you'll put together your priorities, advising the council in the creation, development, and implementation of official traffic and public safety activities, develop and recommend programs, recommend traffic and public safety priorities, provide research and information to the city on matters related to traffic and public safety, promote public acceptance of city traffic and public safety programs, just kind of be our, the extensions out into the community to talk to people, encourage people being a good community member when it comes to safety and helping educate people. Because sometimes people want to report something, but they'll put it on Facebook instead of calling non-emergency or something. There's things like, and they just, never cross their mind, oh, I can call non-emergency. And so things like that, that you guys can reach out in the community about. And so that's all in the code for anybody who wanted to follow up with that. General expectations. Okay. These are just real quickly. It's great to read the packet before you get to the meeting. And if you're going to be absent, just let me know so that we can make sure that we've got a quorum. Typically, that's not an issue. We'll try to get started on time when people arrive on time. And then if something comes up, sometimes that happens. This is 2 or 3 year commitment. And sometimes things come up, partway through that. And we see people kind of struggle along when they're trying, they don't want to quit. But they, if it's something comes up like that, just let us know and we'll let somebody else get appointed. And it's like, no shame because 2 or 3 years, lots change. Any questions so far? Okay. Staff support, that your staff support person is me. I can assist you with, I'll do like the technology, I'll get your meeting started, do the minutes, help set the agenda, follow the rules that we have to with posting agendas. Anything that you can ask me to do stuff to assist the committee, if you need staff assistance, and then I will try to figure out, how to fit that in amongst everything else that we do here. So it's your committee. We want you to take it and run with it, but we do want to provide the staff support that you need. So. Okay. So we have some legal obligations. Those are things I'll help you with. We have to provide notice for all our meetings. And we put it on the website. We post it on the doors. They all have to be open to the public. And we have to have a virtual option, which we do. And then we have to create minutes for each meeting. If for some reason we got here and something happened and we didn't have a quorum, we just put in them, there would be no minutes. It would just say there was no meeting for lack of a quorum. Because basically you don't operate individually or in small groups unless you're assigned to a subcommittee to do some work. But you work as a group to make decisions. So. Okay, we try to post meetings at least 3 days. We try to get them out like if this will be on Tuesday, I'll try to get this out, like posted on Thursday, the Thursday before what your agenda will be. We put our meetings broadcast via Zoom, and then they go on the website. The recording goes on the website. And so you can refer back to it, or other people can watch it whenever, which is kind of handy. It's a nice improvement over the past few years. And then be careful with emails and other communications. If you're discussing committee business with the majority of the members, it's considered a public meeting. So for instance, if I send out a question, or I guess it'd usually be like a scheduling question or something that's kind of incidental, and I might send it to all of you. Don't reply all, just reply back to me. Yep. And that way we won't get into, and you can discuss things with staff. That's not a problem. We just don't want to have you like discussing things as a committee, as a majority of the committee outside of where people can participate and observe. It's not that we just don't want you to, it's you're not really allowed to do that. All right, quorum is a majority of your members. So for a 7-member board, it's 4. Yeah, so here it points out even social settings or digital communications, emails would be considered that could be considered a public meeting. Unless you're just, if you're working, sometimes if you're working on you might do an event, the National Night Out or something, and you might be coordinating stuff. We'll save all those emails, but you're not making decisions. You're just carrying out the plans for the event, or, where do I pick this up at? I needed to take it, stuff like that. That's incidental. Please be aware discussing board business in a social setting or via email could violate the public meeting law if you're out as a group, but typically that's not an issue. Unless you're all good friends and hang out a lot together. Okay. Yeah, if we don't have a quorum, we'll have to schedule the meeting. And work groups and subcommittees, if you're carrying out business decided, like if we decide here at a public meeting, such as planning an event, your work group or subcommittee would have less than a quorum, so 3 at the most. Yeah, and that's a great time to pull in other people who might want to be involved in traffic and public safety, but aren't able to commit to being on the committee. We could have like a couple of committee members, and then some other volunteers from the community who might want to work with you in your work group. All right, public records. No, oh yeah, okay. So any writing in any form related to business of the board is considered a public record. Emails, text message, social media posts, not your personal posts, just if you're promoting, which is, I think it's, I don't want to overdo this, but just be cautious that you're not discussing like the board priorities with other, I can't even explain it. Just all the work that you guys do together is done here, and then realize that even if you're just making a comment on social media, people will kind of they'll see you as representing the city, and so just be careful with that. Okay, ethics. Ethics usually relates to money, even though somebody might say, well, that's an ethical violation, and it might look bad, but if it's not related to money, typically it's not actually an ethical violation. So yeah, you're considered public officials and have to follow Oregon ethics laws. So declare any conflicts of interest, which I really don't see any coming up on this particular board. It's more likely with planning commission or city council usually. So anything that might financially benefit you or a family member, or be a financial detriment. So you might not have a clear, objective opinion about it, because it could be a financial loss to you or family member. You need to declare that by just saying, this is my conflict. It's a potential conflict, or it's an actual, if this passes, then I will financially benefit. But I really don't see that being a big issue with the work that you will be doing on this committee. It could come up though. And then I'm going to kind of skip through this, but we can send it out to you. It just gives examples of potential and actual. If it's a potential conflict, you can still participate. You just need to say it could potentially benefit or be a detriment. For example, you own property which might be impacted by a change in zoning regulations, but this property is not for sale. You're not looking to develop it. It's a potential conflict. Actual is when it will be. And if you have an actual conflict, then you have to declare it and you can't participate. For instance, you own property which is currently for sale, and by changing zoning regulations, it would increase the value of your property or allow for development. There's like fine lines there, but so it's just something to start kind of learning, especially if you might want to move on to other boards or committees that are public. You're representing the public. Each member brings an important point of view. And I like the last statement here. Many points of view produce good policies as they better represent differing demographics, interests, views of the community. I think when we all put our thoughts together, we're going to come out with a much better end product and policy for our community than just one or two people. So code of conduct is, you've signed or are reviewing the code of conduct that the council approved for committees. Just it's pretty common sense, being civil and courteous, and realizing that a lot of times you're representing the city, even if you don't aren't necessarily here in this capacity. Where you be respectful and you make no commitments on behalf of the board without in an unofficial setting. And again, just something to be aware of. Okay. I'm gonna stop sharing. All right. Any questions on any of that? Pretty kind of just a high level, quick at a glance, a little different than a nonprofit or something like that. All right. Okay. Moving right along. Do you want to, since we don't have a chair yet, Brandy, do you want to just go on to the next?
So we need to decide who we want to elect for chair and vice chair.
Mm-hmm.
Can we nominate somebody?
You can nominate somebody. I thought maybe this would be a good time. I should have put it on here, but we could even just go around, do introductions, name and former or present occupation, and maybe just a brief sentence about why you wanted to be on the committee. And then consider if you're interested in being the chair, just realize that you would be responsible for the emails and then helping set the agenda and run the meetings, and that we have a vice chair just in case the chair can't attend for some reason. So yeah.
Okay.
Katie, do you want to start?
Sure. I don't know if my microphone is on.
Just pull it towards you a little bit and then maybe just tap it. Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Well, my name is Katie Berezinski. I was formerly a tax accountant for about 2 to 3 years. And then I became a stay-at-home mom with the pandemic. And we moved out to Estacada to kind of find that small town living for a young family. And I've always been interested in getting involved in the community we live in to kind of understand, the citizens better and also our neighbors. And so I actually ran into the mayor and had asked him, what does he think? I'm a mom and I don't really have, I thought I didn't have as much time. I have a newborn at home right now. And so he said, well, if anything, you can just, try to join via Zoom. And so then I thought, okay, I'll make it work. And it's been great so far.
Good.
So I'm John Dolezal. We moved out here in 2016. I've been in hospice for the last 12 years. Before that, I was pharma for 20. The family is a pioneer family, been the east side of Portland since the 1840s. We were down in Tucson. And when we moved back here, we were looking to the east side and it had changed so much. And so we had some family that actually lived out in Estacada in the 80s. And so we came out here, it was under 3,000 at the time. and just love it. The kids are gone. I don't need a great big yard. I've got friends with property and that's all they do. We can be on the river in 5 minutes. We can be fishing in 5 minutes. And we just love it here. But with the explosive growth and everything that comes with that, I've been a Yahoo dad, sports, all the different sports teams and scouts and all that stuff. And so it's easy to step up and help keep this place, the beautiful place that it is for all of us.
Okay, thank you.
I'm Kerry Dobbs. We bought property here about 12 years ago, and it has 2 addresses. I was out here every weekend. Just couldn't stand Portland. Let's just say that we had a nice, beautiful home in Portland. So I did a lot of work on the property and stuff, and we had some real sweet folks that rented one of the houses there. So I just say we escaped Portland because my wife, the tipping point was 5 shots at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 houses down. And we just said, that's it, we're leaving, we're done. I sold the house very quickly and moved out here. And I grew up on a farm in the Midwest, so I feel like I got roots here. Anyway, this is a great place to live. And as John stated, just the pristine atmosphere here, it's kind of frozen in time. And it's got values, and people in the community care about each other, and it's just got good stuff here. And I just want to be a part of, helping, getting the public to understand what's going on around us. A lot of citizens don't know what's happening here, and growth is good, but I believe it needs to be in a timely manner regulated, and for the safety of everybody in this town. I just want to be a part of that. I just feel like we can all have input in this thing for generations to grow up here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm Brandy Litke. Brandy Lee is my legal name, but that's my maiden name. Go by Brandy Litke. We've been back here since I think it was 2015, almost 2016. So around the same time John came here. My husband grew up in the area. I grew up all over because I'm an Army brat. I run a nonprofit in town. I'm the president of a nonprofit in town. We do a lot of things in the public safety realm. We get a lot of questions all the time. We're highly connected to the fire department and the police department, keeping the community informed. So it kind of felt like a linear move to be a part of it with the city, because there's a lot of community members that talk to me that I could kind of bring their voice to this committee, and also bring what's happening to the community. We love Estacada as well. Our whole family serves the community. So yeah, that's me.
I'm Jim Moriarty, moved here or retired. I was in the U.S. Army for 8 years and federal service for 24. So was it 32 years? Followed our granddaughter up here. My wife came first and I followed. My son's been up in the area, Portland, Beaverton, and thank God that he landed in Estacada. So, especially last night, seeing all the young families out on the Spooky Walk was definitely one of the big reasons why I'm here. I was a union steward when I worked for Uncle Sam. I did health and safety. I was always concerned about things going on at our different stations all throughout the nation. And I've been on some boards here. I'm a Meals on Wheels driver. I'm the post commander for the American Legion here in town. And I'm also on the Estacada Cemetery board here. So I do come to a few city council meetings, right, Melanie? And I just wanted this was definitely in my ballpark with safety, and like you guys have said, the growth, and everybody's concerned about it. Doesn't matter where we go, everybody in Estacada is talking about what are we gonna do with Main Street? What are we gonna do here? Why did we do that at 6 in Main? So that's the reason why I'm here.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice, yeah. My name's Casey Owens. I'm probably least experienced in dealing with anything in Estacada because I've officially lived here, I think, 2 weeks. Thank you,
Welcome.
thank you. Originally, I'm from Oklahoma. Grew up there. I joined the Oklahoma City Police Department when I was 22. I did 31 and a half years, retired last year as a master sergeant there. During my career, I was a field training officer. I worked in the helicopter unit for a while, did some undercover assignments. Majority of my career was spent in the patrol car taking calls. But my last 2 to 3 years there, I was fortunate enough to finally get out of the car, and we had a motorcycle, or not a motorcycle, a mountain bike unit there that I was a part of for the last 3 years of my career. Our department in Oklahoma City is the largest law enforcement agency in the state of Oklahoma, including the state police. We had over 1,200 officers on our department. So it was very large. I enjoyed every minute of it. I worked all kinds of crimes and traffic wrecks and anything, that runs the gamut dealing with law enforcement in a large department. But anyway, I retired last year, got married, and my wife is from Canby here. And her job, we had an opportunity to move back to Oregon. And since I'm retired, I said, yeah, let's do that. So that's what we've done. So she's back here around family. My family, I left them in Oklahoma, the kids and grandkids, but I'm enjoying the break. So, but that's kind of my story. I just wanted to, now that I'm retired and I got a lot of free time, I feel like, being an officer for as long as I was, I could maybe have some expertise with advice and things that dealing with crime, traffic issues, things like that. Like I said, I don't know Estacada like you guys do, being that I'm brand new here, but I did, look at some of the crime stats from the Clackamas County Sheriff's Departments and I wanted to make sure we moved into a safe city. I didn't want to move into an area where I felt like I got to be a cop all over again. You know what I'm saying? So Estacada does have some small issues, compared to what I'm used to dealing with. And I just feel like, I just wanted to continue my public service. That's kind of what I've done my whole life, devoted it to it. So that's why I volunteered to be on the committee, and I'm here. So thank you.
Great.
Your
Okay.
turn, Melanie. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, so if you want to make a nomination, I'm not sure if you just want to randomly nominate somebody to be the chair, or if you want
I have someone to nominate.
to, okay,
I would nominate Jim Moriarty to be chair.
I would second that.
second that.
Yeah,
Okay.
start that.
Is there any discussion on that? Jim, do you feel up to okay, all right. That's great.
Can I nominate vice chair?
Let's vote on you
Okay.
first. Okay, all in favor of Jim Moriarty being chair?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Okay, all right, yeah, and you can do the vice chair if you,
Nominate Randy Litke as vice chair. My motion.
okay.
I second that.
Okay, who seconded that? Carrie?
did.
Okay, carried it, okay. All right, any discussion? Randy, you fill up to the job?
Sure.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? Okay, all right, we have a chair and a vice chair. And if the vice chair wants to keep running the meeting, she may do so, or she may hand that gavel over to.
Can I
the
hand
new
it to
chair.
him?
You can hand it to him.
There you go.
Get rid of that since we started, haven't you?
All right,
Thank you.
excellent.
So we've all done all the 2, 3 and move on to 4 or?
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on the communications policy because
Okay.
the code of conduct, we've kind of gone over some of that. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. But it's pretty straightforward and how we want to operate and how the council has said, this is who we want to be. We want to be positive in their interactions with the community and with each other. And but the communications policy, so pretty much all of your work or I should say all of it will be done in the meeting session, but if you have to email, Jim will be the one who like receives emails from the community, which on this committee, there may or may not be a lot. If it's a, quick and easy answer, he can send it off. If he wants to say, hey, I'll take this to the board and get back to you, he can do that. And then you'll discuss it here but just to minimize the emails, especially if it's talking about a board business. So yeah, in the policy that was a part of your packet, they not to address substantive policy issues, decisions, or deliberations, don't discuss policy issues. The email communication between the committee members is just to schedule meetings, send informative messages. We'll send your packets out to you. And then if you do need to email, like if you're going to email the chair. Okay, this is a new policy. So if you're going to email the chair, I think you're supposed to copy.
Does it go to you?
They would email you. You could also copy me on that or just copy the address, the TPS committee at cityofescada.org. If you copy that, it's going to go into that email box and it'll get archived. So that way we're saving all of the emails in case anybody ever asked, if there was a public records request. So you can either, if you're emailing the chair, either, send it in. Do you have each other's email? I don't know if you do. Okay, we'll have to send that out, send email list out. And then if you do email the chair, either copy me on it or copy the committee email.
So if I had a question from the community and they'd ask me, and then I need guidance or let everybody know, the board know,
Mhm.
so we can vote on it, or how we decide to figure that out. Would I
Yeah,
have to send it to you to send to the board, or just copy you?
you could copy me, and if it's urgent, I could figure out, you and I could figure
Okay,
out what to do
alright.
with it. If it's something that we can just put on the agenda to discuss when we have the next meeting, since she'll be having meetings
I
once a
just want
month.
to make sure it's under that Oregon public law stuff you
Yes.
said.
Yeah,
That's
so if it's something simple and easy, you just respond. Otherwise, you can copy me and we'll either decide to address, if we need to address it right away, we can figure out. And maybe, sometimes people, they send in questions that are kind of urgent and maybe we're not the best. Maybe they should have called somebody else. Yeah, so we need to direct them to where to go.
Right.
But otherwise we'll just get it on the agenda and yeah,
Okay.
it'll be good. So there, and then social media, just be cautious with your social media interactions. And in the policy, it talks about permitted uses. You can answer questions, provide information to public, share a city post. But you want to just kind of be cautious. I don't know if you're all big social media users, but
And when we do that, if we have an event, something's going to get sent out by the city, right? Not by
Yes.
us.
right, yeah. And we could, one of the things, if you're having an event and you want, we could kind of at a meeting, schedule out some posts, information you might want to get out, and we'd outline those, and then you or we could put them together.
For
Or-
example, a survey or something, we
Mhm.
want to ask everybody
Yeah.
something.
Yep, we would decide that at the you would decide it at the meeting, and then I can help you get that emailed out. Yep. Or posted out, yeah.
So can I just to verify on the communication policy,
Mhm.
if I want to discuss anything in regards to the committee, it has to be public?
Yes, I mean, you can discuss it with like one other person on the committee, or you can discuss anything with staff. You can always, give us a call, give us an email, we'll call you back. So staff is a good resource for that, which would be me or Elena, who's the assistant city manager, but I'm happy to talk with you. Lieutenant Mendoza will kind of also be staff on here as well. And so we can, email him questions. And you can talk to each other. We just don't want to.
Smile on her face.
I know, you can talk to each other. We just want to just be careful that you're not like having coffee every Thursday morning and figuring a bunch of stuff out and then coming back and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. Because you want to do that deliberation. You can do it with one, another committee member, and then bring it back to present it and say, hey, this is what we were thinking about, and discuss it here. We just want to all the discussions want to end up here.
Yeah.
Is pretty much it. Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, and if you have questions as we go along, because we didn't used to have an email address that was archived for committee members, but we're trying to make some improvements along the way and it adds a couple more details, but I think it'll be good in the long run. So that's pretty much, I mean, that's pretty much all I wanted to share on the communications policy, but if there's questions, just let me know. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. All right, number 4. Discussion of committee purpose. I guess is the 10 to 12 things that
Yeah.
you want to go through.
Yeah, if you
Discussion
guys
of
wanna-
traffic and public safety priorities.
Mhm.
I have 2, I know that for sure. But
Okay.
I'd like to hear from everyone else.
I wish I should have set up a flip chart, but then they can't see it.
Yeah,
I'll just jot. I'll
we can
jot
write it
things.
down for the
Yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, I'll
purposes.
include it in the minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Does anyone have anything, discussion on what we should be working on or what should be at the top? Andy?
I have a couple ideas. I'm sure we probably all have similar ideas. But one of the ones I'm thinking a lot of people might not be thinking about is our disabled community. There's a lot of things that go on, a lot of decisions are made, and I don't know if the disabled community is in mind. I know there's certain things we can't do, like ODOT's decision on the highway. We have no say in that. Am I right about that?
Pretty
But
much.
things in town, maybe think about crosswalks that have noise, things like that. Making sure that there's access for either visually impaired or disabled individuals. I myself am a disabled individual, but I'm not in a chair yet. But I think like that a lot because sometimes I am in a chair. And it's not the easiest thing to get around in our town in a chair. And just something that could be on our minds when we're talking about things. It would be great to have that in our minds too. And then also, most of what I wrote down was like crosswalks, things like that, street lights, and handicap spots too. A lot of places in town, they do the bare minimum of putting the handicap spot because you have to have one per whatever the law is. But I don't think there's a lot of thought process into where it's placed. The school is a great example. There's 2 handicap spots that you have to fight for. So, just things like that.
Is
That's what I was
that,
thinking
I'm
about.
sorry, just have a question for you on that one.
Yeah,
Is that at, say, the elementary school
Yeah.
or is that anywhere?
I don't know exactly. I'm thinking, you mean as far as the handicap spots go?
Right,
I've noticed it a lot of places. I'm not sure exactly. I could probably do research on who has spots or not. That could be something I could look into, but I just noticed as I'm traveling, it feels like, for example, on Broadway Street, all the handicap spots are on one side of the road, which isn't very useful.
Mhm.
Thoughts like that, things like that.
I have a question and then based off your answers, then I'd like to ask another question. So again, I'm new here, so you got to understand, I don't have the feel that everybody on this committee has. What is the homeless situation like for this town? Is it something that is an issue? Do we even have homelessness people that are here?
we
I think
do,
so.
We do.
And
yes.
like to what level? Is it
I
a
don't know if
problem
we have
or is it
this.
just a few people or are we talking,
I'm
It
not
depends on the
sure.
season.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
It depends on the season.
on the season?
So
Where the
like
last
it,
bus
in,
line here.
Right,
they tend to bus out here in the summer because of the river and stuff.
Right.
But as far as local homeless, I'm pretty sure it's not huge. It's a small population, but we do have a homeless population.
okay,
We see them like up there when they're doing construction and stuff like that. You can see camps where someone's
Yeah.
been sleeping along the creeks and that kind of stuff. It was a great concern. And I could be wrong, but with the red fox,
Yes.
that
Over the
blew
river.
my mind when I
Mhm.
heard about that. And so I don't know if they've been able to count or anything like that.
Yeah.
There's some people that perhaps with drug issues or something like that, you can see them sometimes really
Mhm.
early or late, whichever way your clock goes. either going home or wandering around or that kind of stuff. That's actually one of a priority that I'd like to see
Yeah.
is making sure that my wife can go walk the dogs first thing in the morning or go for a run in the evening. And I think everyone should be able to do that.
Yeah.
One of the reasons I ask, and doing what I did for a living, with homelessness, it goes hand in hand with criminal activity. Most of your homeless are, I'm not lumping them all in together. I'm just saying most of the homeless people either have a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, mental health issue. And that's part of the reason that they're homeless, just because they're not able to function in society. So as you guys are probably aware, the city of Portland, Mayor Wheeler there is about to try to push something to get his homeless situation under control because it's way out of control. Prior to moving here a couple of weeks ago, that's where when we moved to Oregon, my wife and I stayed in downtown Portland. That's where we were temporarily located until we find a home. And it was crazy. I also know, like you said, this is the last line of the bus line. And what I know that Portland has already had one city council meeting to deal with the issue. I think they have 2 more scheduled, if I understand it right. But if he gets his way, they're going to have homeless encampments, I guess, and they're going to try to round up the people that are homeless, place them in these shelters. I think they're designating 3 different shelters. But there's not going to be any way to enforce that those people stay there.
Right.
And my experience dealing with homeless people, what I did for a living, is they would rather be on the street because they have access to their drugs, their alcohol, rather than be in a shelter. So it may work, and I hope it does. But what I think could happen, that's why I asked if this was an issue yet, is if they're getting rounded up by the police or whoever they're going to want to go somewhere else. And we're a bus ride away, as well as every city in between us. So if it's not a problem now, which I'm glad it's not, I think that in the future, this could be an issue. So I would like to know kind of what we have as city ordinances and city codes that are already on the books that we can enforce here and look at, is this going to be adequate if we have an influx?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a law in the book, then they can be here. And we don't have shelters or facilities in the city of Estacada to deal with them. So, but I think that this is something that it's not a problem now, but I think if we got past some new ordinances or whatever we need to do, so that if they show up here, we have something that's already in place that we can deal with it. Okay.
I couldn't agree
Okay.
more.
That's awesome.
If you're looking at the plan, the transportation plan, and they're talking about bikeways and walkways and, through the trees and that kind of stuff. And I remember the Springwater Trail when you used to be able to enjoy that thing. And next thing you know, it's a campsite. And so exactly to your point, are there city, whatever you call them, city codes or whatever that we can control that kind of stuff? Definitely interested.
Because if you don't,
100% agree.
this downtown area that's historic, and I love the time that I've already been here, I love it, is going to start resembling what Portland is. And we've got to be able to give the sheriff's office from Clackamas County something that we can do that has teeth in it, so that they can come out and force certain laws for us to help us out to transport these people to another facility, which is where they need to be. But again, if they don't want to be there, they're not going to stay. And it's usually a revolving door. As soon as that they're away from that alcohol or that drug of choice, I'd rather be back on the streets. So anyway, let's look at what the laws are here. Are they stringent enough? Are they going to be able to deal with an issue if it becomes a problem? So that was one thing I had to say. And then the second thing I was going to ask or bring up is I live on the northeast side of the city here. So at nighttime, I am constantly coming down 6th Street in front of the high school. And what I have found is that the lighting for that crosswalk is very inadequate.
The school one.
The school one going from the stadium to the high school.
You're right.
And there is so, and a lot of cars are parking there because they're waiting on their kids. So their lights are on. So as you're driving through, all you can see is people's headlights that are parked and you're trying to navigate down there. And these people are walking through this crosswalk and it's their responsibility. They don't have nothing to make cars stop. So it's their responsibility to look, is it safe? Well, you got kids on cell phones, you got kids in groups. That's the last thing on their mind. And they're stepping out in cars, you know, it's, I think if we had more stadium type lights there to really flood that area in front of the high school, would be a big safety boom to do there. So
It's a good idea. Maybe
Yeah.
the Ranger Cafe, something.
it's something, but it's just not working. It needs more.
I just think even during the daytime, you know, we all drive around town and
Mhm.
we see the kids, whether they're going over to
Right,
Granny's or wherever. And you see these little lights going off and it's really, I mean,
Yeah,
you know, people, like you said, are just trying to go up
right.
to Copeland or they're going, you know,
Right.
Shafford, or they're just going to where they're going and they're not necessarily paying attention when school's
Yeah.
in session either.
Yeah. And even adults are just as guilty of looking
Right.
at cell phones and not paying attention, but
Absolutely.
it's a high school. So most of those people are going to be the kids, but
It'd be a great spot to sit there, huh?
yeah.
I have a question and something to add to that. So my question is, I've actually come to our council before and made mention of a light on my personal street that has been out for 6 months or something, and I've been told it's PGE responsibility. My question would be, is there a way to, I mean, I know of several places in town that streetlights are out. It makes it very unsafe, dark, like really dark areas, like that's a really good example. Is there a way that, is it all PGE's responsibility, or is there a way that we're able to recommend that kind of stuff? I mean, do we have a say in that?
Or do we have an answer when people ask that?
Yeah.
It's something that's constant.
Yeah, there's a website or I don't know if there's a phone number, but you can go on the website at PGE and report a light out. But you might want to ask staff to like just check into that with PGE and see if,
Yeah.
you know, are they, because it always takes a little while. And right now that it's dark again, you know, everybody's reporting their streetlights out because
Yeah.
all of a sudden it's obvious as you're driving. And so they kind of get an influx, but we could, you know, just reach out and say, hey, we've got some streetlights out. They've been for a while. I think they've been being reported, but can you do some work in Estacada and just kind of
Yeah.
push that a little bit?
Yeah.
I think we could do that. Yeah, if people do, if they ask or let you know, there's a spot on PGE's website where you can, and there's on each of the poles, there's a little, like a little silver thing nailed on there, and it
Mhm.
has their identification of that pole. So they ask for like, what's the closest cross street or something, but you can also just put the pole number and that's,
So cross street and
and the, and
pole
the pole
marker.
number, yeah.
Okay.
So we went, we went to that meeting last week. And I didn't realize there were so many new subdivisions coming in. So we actually went driving this last weekend and looked, and it's unbelievable.
where?
It's,
Deuce Road.
Deuce
Oh, the
Road.
Deuce
well,
Road, yeah.
except I came from the other end. I started, where did I dive in at?
Is it Curran?
I think
is that?
popped in at
Hinman or? By,
well, I mean, we
River
ended
Mill?
up, I'm surprised I got out of there.
Yeah.
You know, because I went in Lawrence because I talked to an officer, and so I went in there and I came back out and went down, cemetery, and then went up some hill and just started wandering, and all of that connects. And so I was thinking of a couple of things while I was doing that, because they're nice, and wide roads, or wide streets, so that was nice. But I'd like Fourth closes every year.
Mhm.
And I got 3 ways into my neighborhood now, thankfully.
Good.
And luckily, like, was it last February, I think, when we had a lot of snow?
Ice storm.
It took the third one and it took a running start to get in. And anyways, what I was thinking is I was driving through the new stuff that they're just doing the site work for now, there's a lot of steep hills there.
Yeah.
And so, and I don't know anything about street construction, but are there things that you can do that make streets safer, like hold the de-icer better, or I don't know, I'm making it up, but something to make those streets safer, because with 600 homes going in there, I mean, that's a whole other elementary school that's going to need to go in there sooner rather than later. And so what can we do now, and what kind of interaction can we have with the developers in
Yeah.
terms of giving them ideas of things to do? My understanding is that they're responsible for certain things inside the borders of their subdivision. You know, what influence or recommendations can we do? Are we authorized for that? Can we just say it and see what they say, that kind of stuff?
It's a good question.
Is-
Can I jump back in with another one, or does somebody else want to? I'm not trying to take up
I'm just talking.
anybody's time. I know you were at the meeting with me last week. Yes, and you know, remember one of the things that was brought up was the evacuation stuff when the fires hit. You know, coming from Oklahoma, we deal with tornadoes where everybody hunkers down. There's no evacuation. You go in and that's how you deal. So I've never been to an evacuation, including what happened here. But it sounded like it was a mess. Now I know that the transportation board that met last week is also, I think, going to be looking into some of those issues, because I brought it up. So I don't know where we would fit in on that discussion. Is that their thing to talk about? Is it ours? Or just, you know, I don't want two different
think you
plans
could-
thrown out there,
Yeah, I think you guys could discuss it
but it's a
also.
traffic issue. So I thought
Mhm.
maybe it was something to bring up here.
Maybe
Um,
mapping of evacuation routes, alternate routes,
And
kind
we
of
could
things like
add
that.
it to the emergency plan that I think the city did, what, a year
Mhm.
and a half ago.
But speaking like he just said, we've got 600 plus more houses coming in.
Yeah.
So if it was a mess before and those streets aren't getting any wider, I mean, they're going to be where they are now. So we're going to be flooding a lot more people in there, and I haven't been through one. So those of you who lived here, I'm sure did, would have much more input on that issue. But I think that's something that probably needs to be looked at. And from what I think somebody had brought up, a citizen that was at the meeting had mentioned that one of the biggest issues, I think, according to them, was the fact that a lot of people had decided to hook up trailers, their travel trailers, and try to get those out. And that just slowed everything up. So I could see that's maybe something we need to look at. How are we going to deal with those issues? So,
Well, actually, kind of to that point as well, when the fires, you know, with the fires, where do you go to get the latest information? And they ended up getting some good sites, but you had to look for them. And once you found them, they were gold. And then we would share them with our neighbors and that kind of thing. But I don't remember it being a link off of the city site. And so maybe that's an idea, is having the city site as a one-stop shop to like when, was it just a week or two ago when the phones weren't working? Or, you know, that sort of thing.
So what else besides evacuation
Well, I mean, anything.
on the city side?
But have the
Just
city
bad
site,
weather? Or-
if there's something that's affecting the town, like
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago, Verizon went out, or have it so that people know to go to the city site for that kind of thing.
Communication.
Right, exactly. But so that they know it's a one-stop shop instead of Googling and then you go Clackamas fire. I don't remember that site, but it was awesome.
You know, I think some things get out on social media, like yesterday, the dump truck that dumped its load out here by
Oh,
accident.
yeah.
He flipped on 224.
Yeah.
And then a couple of weeks ago, we had the police action. We had the SWAT unit here
Mhm.
from Clackamas County behind Chapman's. And I mean, that this is Estacada.
My wife goes to the neighborhood watch or
Wow,
whatever
you
that
know,
thing's called.
but they're, you know, they're definitely spending money on their uniforms.
No,
They have all the
totally,
new stuff.
exactly right.
right.
Drama.
I got a question on the PGE thing here.
Yeah.
They randomly shut stuff off without telling anybody. So what it was a few days ago, well, Spooky Walk, somebody unplugged half the city and it was PGE doing it was maintenance. The lady went down, on the food carts down there across from Napa Auto, and went down there to get Sherry a Reuben sandwich, and they had no power. And one of the ladies in the food cart there didn't have any way to keep her food warm, as they didn't either. They didn't have generators. And she had called PGE, and PGE had said, well, we're doing some maintenance. And so unplugging half the city in a business area for maintenance with no warning is kind of a surprise, I would think.
Especially downtown
Yeah,
where all the businesses are.
yeah.
See, a week or two ago, I did get a notification in my mail from them saying they were gonna cut our neighborhood off.
Oh,
for
they did
Between
send out
8 AM
emails.
and 4 PM.
They usually
And they
do,
shut,
but-
I mean, it was like, I was watching television, the news at 8 AM, and I mean, it was
Oh,
on the
okay.
money.
Okay,
But they got it on at noon instead of 4 PM. So mine was out for 4 hours, but I had notification.
but they had sent out prior to that, they had sent out a notice.
Yeah, we had something in our
Oh,
neighborhood
okay.
about it. So
Okay.
I was aware that it was
Oh,
gonna
okay. I
happen. And
didn't
one of
know
my
that.
neighbors even was the first one to say, hey, because she knew I was brand new, we were just moving in.
Sure.
She didn't think we were hooked up to everything to get the notification.
Okay,
So
well,
then-
that's a good thing.
So,
It's something I
yeah.
didn't know.
I can follow up with PGE and with our government liaison person and say, hey, was that a planned shut off or was that, because my
it
home
was-
was out and it was, we were on here, so I didn't realize that half the town was out too.
Half of Broadway was. out.
Yeah, and so, but I can see, was there something that was an unexpected power outage or that they had planned that and I could report that back to you? Because our wastewater plant was offline too, and that's always a mess to try to, when the power
Yeah.
just shuts down, then you gotta get everything figured out. So ordinarily, they would notify us, I'm sure, if they were planning to do it, but I can double check on that
Yeah,
and
seems
see
like,
why, yeah. Yeah, because if she called and they said it was due to maintenance. I'll follow up on that.
So two quick things, if I may.
Absolutely.
Sidewalks, again on Fourth. I don't remember seeing a car count or a pedestrian count going up the hill on Fourth. But like when the
You mean
buses.
the sidewalks that stop at the Shafford, you mean?
Well, and not just that, but there's a pinch point. And I don't know how you fix that because, that one house is just right there. I don't know what you do, but there's a lot of kids walking up that hill. And now with all the construction and stuff, there's a lot of traffic coming and going. And so we used to make a big loop and go down past all the schools and then come down here, and the cardiac part of the walk was going up the hill with the dog.
Save that for the end.
And it's, you have to have on a super tight leash and you just stop if you've got two cars coming because you can't go. And I don't know if it looks like they've cleared out a bunch of land. I don't know if that's another coming subdivision or what, but
The 4 acres there on the left.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But if there was something that the city could do, because the only way they're going to be able to get enough land to put a sidewalk is to go that way, because and so if there's a way to make a deal or whatever it is so that we can have the sidewalk continuous, because there's a lot of foot traffic going up that hill, except in winter.
Yeah, that's true.
were you talking about on Broadway?
No, I mean, right up here,
That
just
hill.
going right up the
Going
hill.
up to Reagan Hill, Carrie.
Okay. I got you.
It goes like this
Yeah.
and then it goes
Yeah,
about this
bottom
big
neck.
and then it goes back
Yeah.
up
And
again.
people speed down that hill too.
Yeah.
I got-
Well, you ride the brakes the whole way.
Yeah.
And you still can't help but do like 30 or something like
true.
that, because you're riding your brakes the whole way.
Right. All right, which leads me to my suggestion is speeding in town.
Yep.
Once a week, I take my granddaughter to school and I am so angry every week how people drive in this town. It's remarkable. And I do the right thing. I go northeast, I take my time, I drop down to Shafford. And I try to get out at the high school in Shafford. People are coming down Coupland. Astronomical speed. So I choose to take my Dodge Ram 3500 and just pull out. so I can be on time.
Mhm.
You know, okay, they're not gonna, they hit me and it's, you know, I won't feel a thing, but it's, you know, I have someone else that's really important to be in there.
Right.
So that needs to be addressed, whether
Yeah.
it's we talk to Lieutenant Mendoza or where they can position themselves during school hours. It just, yeah. And I noticed that Clackamas River Elementary,
Mhm.
they've been putting out cones
They have.
out on the street. Probably works. but
It helps a lot.
That's
I was
kind of
happy
a
to-
Band-Aid on that, you know?
Right, I was happy to hear you addressing the, or mentioning the concern about like the, at the high school and all the school zones. This school has been, they'd be supportive of us putting up additional warning signs, flashing beacons,
Yeah,
things like that, but we need to kind of be, like prioritize how that happens and
That's
make
fine.
sure, yeah. So that's a great comment.
And then even if you try to go down Fifth and end up at the high school on Pierce and then go that way, you still have all the people from Shafford. And then if you're a little bit late, you have all the school buses on either side out in front of the high school,
Mhm.
just all, you know, 6 or 8 of them. And like I said, I choose to take my truck. And when I do that, my left tires are on the double yellow line, and I feel pretty uncomfortable doing that because, you know, I have such a huge truck, like a tank, and I don't want to scare anybody taking their kids to school, but I don't want to hit the buses either,
Yeah,
Very
what else are you gonna
congested.
do?
you know, but it's, you know, it's everywhere. It's people coming in from town
Mhm.
on Eagle Creek Road by the
I was
library.
going to mention Eagle Creek. Yeah,
Yeah.
actually, our property's backing up against Eagle Creek and it's at all hours of the day. I mean, we're putting the kids to sleep and it's so loud. I mean, the engine's coming down and it goes from a 45 zone into a 25 zone and we do not hear them stopping. Our house is like where the 25 zone starts and there's no stopping. I mean, they run through, we've seen a rollover accident. We've been here 2 years. And so the things we've seen in just that short amount of time, and if it wasn't for that green space that's separating us from Eagle Creek, I'd be concerned they'd end up in our backyard. But I don't know if there are any plans in place, or I don't even know what you do. I guess it's not my specialty of expertise, but to slow people down. And then we have friends about 3 miles down on Eagle Creek, and they say that they can't even cross the road because they're really close to Hypel, if you know where that is. And
Yeah.
so they say that the cars just shoot up on that little incline there. And I think it's a 50 zone, if I'm
It's
correct.
45.
It is a
45,
45?
thanks, right.
It used to be 55, but they.
But
put it
that
down to
triangle
45.
hypel is,
Yeah, and
That's pretty
so
bad.
it's pretty bad there. And
Mhm.
so yeah, I had mentioned to her that there was this committee that's gonna be formed, and she's like, well, let them know about the speeding on Eagle Creek. And I said, well, I have my own comments
Yeah.
about Eagle Creek
Right.
too.
It's true though, because like I drive Eagle Creek Road a lot because I don't like the highway. It's too scary for me, honestly. People drive like it's a raceway and Eagle Creek Road's turning into the same thing. I mean, they
Yeah.
did lower it from 55 to 45, but that area where it comes down to 25, you get people yelling and screaming at you, flipping you off because you're going down to 25 like you're supposed to.
Mhm.
I don't know what we can do, but there's got to be something to get people to realize there's a reason that it's going down that low.
So we avoid Emmisiger.
Mhm.
oh, absolutely.
And, or like if we're coming from Sandy or coming back from Sandy, sometimes getting on the highway takes so long, so forever that we'll go down Eagle Creek. We'd rather go the highway, but we know, who knows, if you get somebody up there that's pretty shy, you could be there a real long time. So we end up going down Eagle Creek just to, because at least you're moving.
Yeah.
Even though you're not moving as fast. And so if there's a way, and I don't know, but if there's a way to, I like the idea that this was a one light town, but I think we're past that.
I think you're right.
On that note, and Brandy's on, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
The city has the speed limit signs that are mobile. They get put in different
Mhm.
positions around town. How many do we have? How many do we have a budget for? And how many can we look at purchasing in the future to possibly make them permanent?
Yeah, we have 2 right now.
Okay.
I have to say the guys have a lot of fun with those.
Yeah,
They're battery operated.
okay.
And so they only last just, till the battery's dead. And then they'll take them back to the shop, charge them up, put them someplace else.
Okay.
And so they're in that regard, they're kind of high maintenance because they're up and down. So we do have just 2 of those right now. But we could check on pricing for those.
Or something that's solar.
And then, or more
something-
permanent ones that are solar
Right.
also. Because supposedly those, and you guys might want to do some research on that, but supposedly those speed notification signs are more effective than speed bumps. And so, but especially when they move around and they catch you off guard, it's like, oh darn, it's back again. And I'm going too fast.
No.
So yeah, but I could check on costs and I know Don was looking at that. He might be out of budget for this year, but once we roll into next year, we're prepping the budget for our 23-24 year. I can't hardly believe I'm saying that, but so our new budget year starts July 1. And so we could do some price checking. You guys can make some recommendations. We could, figure out, try to make a good plan for how we can fund some of those, and you guys could do the prioritizing of it. And
Do they have software, or do they have anything that registers a person speeding or something that would give Clackamas County a better idea of where people are speeding?
That's a
Or
good question.
maybe we can do speed bumps in the future, because I see
Mhm.
things on Facebook and people are concerned in the neighborhood over here or
Mhm,
over here in the
Mhm.
center of town, up on hills, that
mhm,
requested
Yeah.
speed bumps in the past, and
mhm.
they don't come to city council meetings.
Right, and speed bumps they have pros and cons, because you have to, like, they don't work well with snow plows. They don't work well on hills or curves, but they're like Lakeshore has been, they've been asking for them for a long time. And they do need to be engineered. There was just a whole string of emails coming out on the city manager listserv. Somebody wanted to, a community actually wanted, a neighborhood wanted to contribute, put speed bumps in their neighborhood, and everything I read was like, no, you can't do that. But if they're engineered, if we highlight certain areas of town and can do some engineering for those, to have a traffic engineer evaluate whether that's a good thing. But those are recommendations you can make, and we can investigate. And then, I think that'll be helpful.
Because I know the ones in Portland have little divots in them
Mhm.
specifically for the fire trucks.
Yes.
So there's
fires.
no issue that everything's flat. They can just roll right through it.
Mhm, Right, or bicycles.
Or
You can
bicycles,
roll right
right.
through, yeah, or if you're a car, you can at least get one tire through,
Right.
but. Yeah, so but those are something that they take a little more time to evaluate, but they can definitely be recommendations. And we can figure out how to do some traffic counts, or because we have we can do traffic counts. And so, yeah, if you prioritize those, we can start working our way down the list.
Another question?
Sure.
I remember after the fire, we ended up voting, and we have our, the fire department, it's Decatur Fire Department. Kind of in that same vein, at what point we're reaching a size, is there a certain size or a break-even point where we talk about our own police force?
That was my second point. Thank you.
Okay.
Absolutely. Do we want to stay Clackamas County? Or do we want our own department?
Well, and
I mean, right here, I
Yeah.
think could help us on that.
well,
The
Definitely
thing-
size-wise.
The deal with dealing with and I only worked for city police department for 31 years. I didn't work for county, but I worked closely with the county, Oklahoma County Sheriff's Department. In fact, we had Oklahoma City expanded into 4 different counties, maybe 5. So I'm used to working with those guys. And then they were all great guys, and I'm sure the Clackamas County Sheriff's Office is outstanding and does a great job here. The thing that, I don't know the answer to this, so I'm just telling you how I see things. Unless there's an incentive for those guys to be out here, like a little substation that they're assigned to be in the town more. They're responsible for the entire county of Clackamas. So if Estacada doesn't have a huge crime problem, it doesn't make sense for them to be out here as often, you know. Public relations say that you go out there to let the citizens see you're patrolling.
Right.
But they can make a drive-through or two, and then where their high crime areas are, that's where the sheriff or their bosses are gonna want them. So they're
We
not
would
gonna
have 3 dedicated deputies to
Yeah.
Estacada.
to Estacada.
Yes.
Okay,
Right, Melanie, just checking.
well, that's great. That's great.
And
and
then
I have-
Lieutenant Mendoza comes out and does.
Good,
inform
good,
the
because I
city
have seen one
council.
in our neighborhood a few
Yep.
times driving around, so. um, Dealing with the city police department, there's pros and cons to that. Obviously, they're gonna be completely focused on the town. But you're talking about doing a whole new budget, which
The expense.
you're gonna have to get equipment, vehicles, a station, how many officers are you gonna have for a town this size? You know, 2 to 3 probably would be adequate, but that would have to be something that's done with an eye of how much is it gonna cost us compared to what we're paying the sheriff's department. I did review the crime stats before the meeting and because I just was curious, that's what I do. And for our city, there's really not a huge crime problem here. I mean, the biggest crimes, which are in most cities, are property crimes, not person crimes. And it holds true for Estacada. Auto burglaries, property crimes, burglaries, things like that. But even those are on a very small scale, which you would expect because it's a smaller town. That would just have to be something that the city council, I think, would probably have to take up have they taken that up before? Has that been something that's been brought up?
It's
Looking at doing your
something-
own?
Yeah, it's something that was discussed probably over a decade ago. And then at one point we stopped our contract with the sheriff's office. We contracted with Sandy Police that was different. They have more of it felt like more of a community policing
Mhm.
type, having your own police department. But again, we still didn't have 24-hour coverage. But it was kind of a burden for them because we are far enough apart that it was challenging. And then the economies of scale and what the sheriff's office can provide. And so we ended up going back to the sheriff's office.
Being in a small town with a small town police department, I mean, in Oklahoma, we had several that you had a chief and you had a patrol deputy, and that was it. So basically the chief and the deputy chief. We had a boss and somebody that wasn't a boss. And that worked okay. And because most of the calls that you respond to as a police officer don't require a backup officer. They're property crimes or you're doing something, a traffic stop or whatever. But if you start running into domestic situations or you're dealing with a drunk subject or the homeless people, things that can spiral out of control real quick, it's nice to have your backup there. So, if we were to look at that, you got to look at staffing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I know that there are some pluses to it, but there are also some drawbacks. And I think the drawback is going to be how you're going to finance it. I mean, if
we're even putting on more Clackamas County deputies, what would that cost be?
Yeah,
Compared
yeah.
to
right.
substation, Sallyport.
Yeah. Yeah.
All of that area.
Yeah.
Well, I know a
'cause-
lot of people, I've seen the council talk about it, I've seen other committees talk about it. I, for one, am big believer that in our own police department eventually, but I've talked to other people individually, there's a lot more to it than just say, hey, let's get our own police department.
Yeah.
Plop, there you go.
Right.
There's a lot more to it. And also in the meantime, if that's the way the council decides to go, in the meantime, there needs to be a discussion of, well, what we do have now, is it working? If it's not, how do we make it work? Where are the problem areas?
Mhm.
For
Right.
one, don't we have a gap in time where we don't have anyone in town?
We don't have 24-hour coverage. Right
Yeah,
now.
so that
We're
would
working
be-
towards that.
That would be something I think we should be fighting for
Mhm.
big time. Yeah, I agree. I think eventually we do need our own police department, especially with how big we're growing, but I think it's gonna take time. So in the meantime, while that's happening, we have to decide what to do now too.
I would like to, because it comes down to math. And so I would be interested, I know there's some kind of ratio officers per thousand
I
or
think 1,000.
or whatever it is,
Right.
but
Yeah.
you know, I'd be really interested to see those numbers. You know, it's, as we continue to grow, the idea of having, you know, the Estacada Fire Department right at the bottom of the hill, and I think you said, you know, looking out for us and that community policing part where the officers know the kids. And so if they run into some rowdies after a football game, you know, they know these kids and, you know, knock it off or I'll tell your dad kind of thing, or versus not. So, but it is math. And if so, if it doesn't make fiscal sense, then it doesn't make fiscal sense. But I'd be interested in seeing.
Because funding the
too.
police department's not cheap. I mean, you're
Right.
talking equipment, vehicles, salaries, retirements, insurance. I mean, it's a lot of money. You know, I know just back in 1990, when I went to the police academy, I think they invested $25,000 just to get me through the investigation process to allow me into the academy. You know, and that doesn't count the salary that jumps way up when you start the academy. So money's going to be the overriding factor. If Clackamas County Sheriff's is doing a good job, and like you said, kind of if it's not broke, don't fix it. But I would love to say that we had our own police department. I think every town wants one, just that's dedicated to your people, and I see that. But money's going to be the deciding factor, I think, on that.
Yeah, this isn't an
I
indictment
funded-
at all on the county at all. I'm
Yeah.
just curious,
Yeah.
interested.
Yeah, and like I said, the crime stats I looked at, it's not Estacada is a very safe city to live in. I mean, it's a very safe city to live in. So they're doing a good job, and it also speaks to the citizens here that they're not criminals. You know, they're doing the right thing. They're law-abiding people that come here, that live here. I'm sure you've got some issues, but every town does. It was at the last meeting that we were in with you guys.
TSP.
Yeah, the TSP meeting where they said the population is at 8,800 now, or is that what they're expected to be?
No, it's the projection.
The
Projected to be that
PSU
when?
One that was on there
It's the wrong number.
was 2030 something. It was what, 5,000 something. We're already at that now.
Yeah,
Or more accurate, all of Estacada, not just the city, but everywhere would be probably.
In the urban growth boundary, I think is
Urban
where,
growth,
yeah,
yeah.
in the urban growth boundary, which would be any property that could annex into the city. If
Right.
that all developed, it's estimated to be at about 8,000 people.
Okay,
That's
Mhm.
currently. that's what
No,
we have.
well, that's what it
Projected.
could be. What it's right now is 5,035 was the last number we got. So I'm sure it's higher than that right now. But we're moving toward that 8,000 plus population.
And
It's
in-
not current.
2016, we were below 3,000, weren't
I
we?
know, isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah.
We went that quick.
But it's gonna be jumping up because like you said, all these housing additions that are going in. It's exploding, town's exploding. So maybe looking at a police department at this point may be a smart move because it's growing. And if the county guys are out of Estacada because they're on another call somewhere in Clackamas County, their estimated time of arrival to get to a call here may be 15, 20, 30 minutes. They got to go a very long distance. But if you have somebody that's dedicated here, your time of arrival is under 5.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a good thing when you really need them. So, yeah, it's just something to bring up, I guess.
I think we can get something with the city council on that. Does anyone else have anything on our 10 to 12? Did we surpass that or?
I don't know. I would have
Miss-
to like format those out and I can, so I'll do the minutes and
Okay.
pull those out and maybe email them out to you so you guys can be thinking about them
Okay.
prior to the next meeting.
Okay.
And we could do some sort of a prioritization, however you want to
Okay,
kind of do that.
the participation with the TSP.
Yeah, so and I think most of you are already participating with our transportation system plan update, but anytime you can do a survey online or attend an open house, we value your feedback, especially from your perspective. And I think that there's going to be a lot of things that you're able to learn by being on this committee that will be helpful, like your perspective applied to from your own backgrounds from this committee and then applying that to our upcoming plans. The same thing with the Main Street Enhancement Design Review. I'd love to hear. In fact, if you guys want to make at the next meeting, if you want to make certain recommendations for Main Street, you can do that. It's at engineering right now, but it hasn't come back to the council yet. So there'll be another couple iterations before it's finalized.
And that's the TSP
That
meetings?
is the Main Street enhancement. I jumped down to that. So,
No, I mean,
oh,
they'll be talking about that at the TSP meetings or is that
no, that will be at urban.
what's up
renewal.
as a whole?
Which is
Got it.
usually linked up with the city council meeting because the urban renewal agency board is the city council.
So we could essentially, at our next meeting together, come up with some ideas that we want to bring to the
Mhm.
urban renewal meeting.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and make some recommendations and we could either you could come and speak at the urban renewal meeting and share those out, or we could also have them drafted up and include them in the packet to the urban renewal board.
Is that meeting scheduled already?
Your next meeting or the urban renewal?
No, the urban renewal.
It is not scheduled already. We should probably have one at the last council meeting of the year, which would be December 12th. I think it's December 12th.
Okay.
Yeah, so that would be great, yeah. And then I also put on here, I just kind of was brainstorming things, so the ideas for events. There might be one or maybe two events you want to take on and you guys can decide what what would be a priority for you. I know there's like the national night out might be perfect for you all.
Yeah,
There's walk and roll to school days that I've always wanted to do. It's like a walking bus where you have parents park, several blocks from the school, and then everybody walks to school and you talk about safety, walking safety, and there's different things. They could be fun. It might not be up your alley, but things like that. And then also we have a hazard mitigation, a natural hazard mitigation plan for the city that identifies potential hazards. It's separate from our emergency plan, but it identifies natural hazards, storms, earthquakes, fires, things like that could affect our town, what kind of an effect they might have, and how anything that we think we can do to mitigate, like putting in the culvert that goes under Wade Creek by the library, expanding that. So that should help eliminate some flooding versus having all that water come down Wade Creek and then have to it would come up over the road. So that's like a mitigation project. And we need to have, we have a plan in place. It's time to update it again. Elena is working on that with the county as they're updating theirs, but we need an advisory council or a hazard mitigation advisory committee, I think is what it's called. And I usually in the past haven't done it for several years. It's fallen by the wayside a little bit, but I'd kind of randomly pull together some people. Hey, how did the winter go? What kind of hazards do we have? Did we see anything that we need to work on so that it won't happen again next winter? Kind of things like that, once or twice a year to meet, look at the plan, look at the hazards, see what we need to assess. And we'd like to invite you to be part of that. It's not necessary. I hadn't thought of it. Elena just brought it up today and I'm like, that would be great at that. But it's not necessarily public safety and traffic. It doesn't, but it all kind of intertwines there. And you wouldn't all have to participate. Usually the meetings are during the day. But if we could have, a good portion of you might, if you're interested in that, to participate in that committee, I think that would be something great to work on.
So that would kind of be like for evacuation in an area, which would throw it right into the traffic safety committee.
Yes, absolutely. Evacuation for things or what one ways out. We have multiple communities with one way out. The newer communities are getting more ways out.
Mhm.
Lakeshore still has one way out. If you get past Elm,
Yeah,
then you don't have any way out.
Well,
The river, or you could drive up the path, and get out at Timber Park, I guess. And so there's things like that, that we might want to make some evacuation routes or make some recommendations for that. If a tree falls across the road, you're done. If the culvert where Wade Creek comes under by Cemetery Road, if something happens to that, we're kind of surrounded by a lot of things that could, with a natural hazard, could cause problems. So yeah, I think it would be great if you are interested in participating.
And I
Okay.
think it's a good idea to do before the Deuce and the other communities do connect to Cascadia Ridge
Mhm.
Cemetery. So we do have a plan, even though that might be the second egress route out of there. Instead
Right.
of coming all the way down to Coupland and
Mhm.
being on the drag strip there.
Mhm.
But, having something in place where we can just fix it later, that's always good to have something
Yeah, I agree.
ahead of time.
Good. You guys have had some great discussion tonight.
One quick question, there won't have to be any discussion. I just got a quick question for my own knowledge. There's 2 elementary schools, a junior high and a high school. That's what we have. And
Yes.
do each of those schools have a school resource officer assigned to them?
Isn't there
High
only
school
one?
only.
High school
That's
just
what-
has an
that's my
officer, but there's
understanding,
none
yes.
at the junior high or the elementaries.
He works all the schools, but he's usually based at the high school.
Yeah.
Right.
So we have 1 officer for 4 schools.
Mhm.
And he's, very close to River Mill, but again, get out.
Theory is
Drive
Are they
left
doing-
out.
It's not,
Okay,
it is a problem.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So River Mill is one of our elementary schools, which is right by the high school.
right.
And then the middle school's really close. And then you've got CRE, it's kind of,
Is it like on
Honest-
8th Street? Cause that's.
CRE is the one right on
Yeah.
Main Street. And they're kind of the one that's kind of, unfortunately, I think a lot of times CRE is kind of out in the cold a little bit when it comes to that stuff.
So I worked a lot of extra jobs in my career. Most cops do to make it. Why can't we pay a salary to have an officer in every school? That are,
That's a
they're
good
off-duty
question.
officers. We need it in this day and age. You guys have seen everything I've seen. I don't have any kids in school anymore, but I got grandkids in school. But there's no reason why we shouldn't have an officer in
I
every
agree with
school.
that.
One is too thin to spread between 4 schools.
I agree.
And anybody that's wanting to do something is gonna know that schedule real quick.
Yep.
And it's, so I think we need to invest in our kids and put an officer. Somehow they're off duty. But we have an officer in every school every day.
I agree with that.
So,
We're good with that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Good. We can work on that. There's the city pays half of the SRO. So we have 1 SRO, and city pays half and school pays half. And then if it's summertime, he'll patrol in the city. Because he still does have a lot of work to do
but even,
with the students, but
even the extracurricular activities, football games and things.
Yep.
So if they're at school all day they're from 8 to 3, they're probably not gonna want to go clear back to their house when they got off duty to come back to a ball game later that
No,
night. So I
they-
mean,
so we're a long day for him.
yeah,
We were just
so
talking
that's what
about
I'm
that
saying.
today.
That's spread too thin. That
Yeah.
needs to be fixed. And those big congregations where you have the football games at the stadiums, or not just football, but soccer or anything else going on, they need law enforcement presence, I feel, to
Okay.
just,
I agree with that.
it's just
Yeah.
crazy
for
anymore.
sure.
And I
So-
think the sooner we do that and the population of the kids
Yeah.
here at Estacada.
Yeah.
Don't know if we have to possibly build another school in the future, so that would be another
Right.
part-time
Right.
job.
You're right.
Whether it be another junior high, high school, whatever.
Yeah.
But you see the populations of both elementary schools, and I think it outweighs the capacity of the high school right
Right.
now,
It does, yeah.
so.
You don't want to wait till something happens before you make this decision. It's just, in
Well,
this
yeah.
day and age, everybody needs them. So-
Wasn't it the last council meeting when the lady, I can't remember, Maggie
Mhm.
got up and talked about how if you count River Mill and CRE right now, it exceeds what the high school can handle. And they keep saying, well, we'll just add more pods, we'll add more pods, but eventually you can't add more pods. I mean,
Mhm.
there's gonna be a breaking point and we're
There
getting there.
I didn't want to interrupt. Oh, sorry, I'm interrupting you instead of interrupting her, but I want to say there are 6 grades at the elementary schools versus 4 grades. So even though if you combine both the elementaries, it's gonna
Yeah,
overmax the high school, but there's only 4 grades in the high school, so it gives us it's a little different than just straight combining them
Well,
and putting
yeah.
them in there, but still, yeah, definitely they're gonna.
The officer that
have
works
to-
at the school, is he working while he's on duty, or is he paid, he's off duty coming in?
He's on duty.
next-
That's his.
That's his
job.
on-duty job.
Yes. I think there's 5, I want to say there's 5 SROs in Clackamas County. for just that that Clackamas County Sheriff provides. And then there's, city, like Oregon City
Right.
has, I'm sure, I don't know what their number is, but there's city departments that probably also provide them. And, but Clackamas County has 5. One of them is here in
Yeah,
Ustica.
we just need to do some guys that are off duty and
Yeah.
every officer needs extra money.
Mhm.
I never had and everybody wants a lot of officers to come work for them, special functions. So that shouldn't be an
Mhm.
issue.
Mhm.
We have a need, they have a need. We just got to do
Mhm.
the money part of it, which that's what it all boils down to all with everything else.
Let the city council know
Yeah,
about it. and then they
yeah.
can-
Yeah, there's gotta be a way to
Yeah.
work that out.
Absolutely. But we give them some good options.
Exactly.
That'll work. Right.
Hmm.
And is that it for the events or?
Yeah, unless you want to, be thinking about what you do or don't want to do. These are just suggestions that came off the top of my head. So,
Okay,
yeah.
those are
whatever.
good.
I like the National Night Out idea.
Absolutely.
Mhm. The library staff kind of kicked it off this year.
Yeah.
But I think it'd be great to have it in multiple neighborhoods where people are getting to
Absolutely.
know each other too. So.
Definitely.
Isn't
Mhm.
there, I remember a while ago, there was a bus traveling around sharing, what an accident would look like if you were running at this speed and it was supposed to tell kids to not speed. I do not remember what it was called. I can look into it, but
I know what you're talking about.
it's pretty much like it's demonstrating a crash site. And so then, you're just, looking at your phone, and then it was pretty much simulating an accident.
Uh-huh.
And they showed that within like a little school bus or something.
Wow.
And so maybe that's something I can look into
Okay.
what
like
it,
that idea.
where
That's a
to
good idea.
contact them, but maybe to bring them out and
Mhm.
to show it maybe to the seniors in high school or something, to where the kids that are driving, is that juniors and seniors,
Junior, senior, sometimes sophomore.
to just kind of show them what, just a little distraction in your cell phone can cause. And
Mhm.
so maybe that could,
Was that just a question, was that a simulated one or did they actually have like a DUI accident? Because I'm from Boston area. Grew up and raised in the South Shore of Boston.
Mhm.
And every year they would put a DUI crash vehicle
oh. my
right at the
goodness.
baseball field, right when we went to high school, every morning or every year
Mhm.
before prom and everything. And I was just like, yeah, no.
That's a good
I mean, it
idea,
was
though.
like, it was like horrible. It was like, half a tire on it instead of the 4.
Mm.
I think this one
Kinda
was
get the
like
point
a
across.
traveling, I think this was like a traveling, I'm
That's good,
assuming
though.
somebody made a business out of it where they would travel and just show the display of how mangled the vehicle looked. And so then I think seeing the visual was just a lot more eye-opening to the kids
That's
than,
awesome.
so
Yeah,
maybe that
having it-
could be an idea for an event, and I
Yeah.
can look into
That's a
it.
good
There's
idea.
a program called Oregon Impact, and they have a smashed up vehicle in a trailer that they haul around. It's at the fairgrounds and they'll bring it out. The high school does it here. I don't know if they do it every year, but where they have that trailer there. It shows the car. It has a little story that says what happened. And then they've done, I don't know how many times they've done it. I've seen it 2 or 3 times where they'll reenact a scene and the students go out to the track. There's tarps over a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden there's a screeching sound, the sound effects of a crash, and they throw the tarp back and there's like a mangled car. The kids have
Yeah.
been made up to look like they're in an accident. And it's pretty awful. And then you have to wait for fire and rescue to get there. And I'm a little traumatized right now thinking about it, but yeah, so they've done that, and maybe if there was more support, or I don't know if it requires funding, that this committee might be able to help to do that. They do it like in the spring before prom, when in summertime coming up and kids are out running around a lot more.
It makes a bigger impact when you actually have it physically in front of you than looking at it on a screen.
Yeah,
And I'm
so
sure-
yeah,
go ahead.
that's called Oregon Impact, and then I'm not sure what the program is, but those might be things that you want to
Mhm.
support.
And I'm sure Estacada Fire would
Oh, yeah.
happily,
Yeah.
give them a
They're
good
great.
half training day or something.
Mhm.
They're
That'd be
great.
good. Good. All right, so is there anything else there? November and December meeting dates.
Yeah, what do you want to do with that? So if we meet 4 weeks from now, it's the Tuesday
29th.
after Thanksgiving, so we could do November 29th. I wanna
It's the
say.
29th.
Yeah, if you want to do that 4 weeks out, so we'd have a second meeting in November, but it would be 4 weeks apart. And then the fourth week of December would be like right out between Christmas and New Year's, I think. So we could meet then, or you could rearrange it, or we could wait till January, whatever you want to do.
So how's November 29th for everyone?
Yeah.
29th, it's fine.
Good.
November.
Everybody shaking their head.
Yeah.
Carrie, what do you think?
November 29th.
Tuesday, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay.
Same time, 6?
Mhm. 6 is good for me. I'm an early bird now, so,
Okay.
but if everybody can make it to that.
Awesome. Get that out of the way. How about December?
If you want to do one in December, a lot of,
Or
sometimes.
I'm
boards
just
will-
asking.
Yeah, sometimes boards will skip a December one, but if you want to meet, since you're brand new, if everybody's gonna be in town.
That'd be the 27th, so probably not.
Oh, yeah, it would be the 27th. Is that
'Cause
right?
it's
Yeah,
on
it would be,
Sunday.
it would be the 27th,
Right.
you're right. So whatever, or
You
if you
wanna
want to
skip-
do,
You want to skip December?
Sure.
Just go into,
Yeah.
we'll do that last one in November and then jump back in January.
January.
Give everybody a chance to travel or do what they gotta do for Christmas.
So if we skip December, does that mean we have to go all the way to the end of January?
Maybe beginning of January.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
thinking-
because it.
wait a minute. Are
We're
we
set to
meeting
be the
on-
fourth
which-
Tuesday.
I'm confused. Is this the first Tuesday? Yes, this is the first Tuesday. Sorry, oh my word, the calendar is just going
okay.
like crazy. Yeah, so if we meet the first or second Tuesday, Lieutenant Mendoza is busy with other meetings, but if we push it to later, but
Mhm. That's
you
what I was
could
thinking.
you could do that. You could do 2 meetings in January if you want to, or we could meet in November and then see where you're at. If we're at if you don't mind waiting till the end of January, we could decide on that later. Or you could set up 2 in January if you're really moving forward.
So the transportation system plan,
Mhm.
it says that their adoption hearings are gonna start, it looks like sometime in the summer. So you're talking, say, 9 months or something like that.
Mhm.
I'm not sure, staying in the right lane,
Right.
what our responsibility is in terms of coming up with ideas or what will we be expected to input there? And if we've got to have something ready to go in 9 months, right. And we
I
need to
think
meet.
what what we hope that you could provide is attending the community meetings, like we just had one, we'll have another one. If there's surveys that come out, because a lot of the work is done by the consultant and by our planners as they're working through the process, but then they'll bring it back to the public and say, hey, this is what we've heard, this is what we've done so far, and give us feedback on it. And so I think there's not a lot of on the groundwork or,
Right.
work to do, but being willing to stay up to speed, check their web page once in a while, so you know what's going on with it. And and then we could, I could have somebody, give me some information that I can share with you on where they're at. So I could give you a quick update each month on where they're at, what's the next event coming up.
Be good.
Maybe
good
that would
idea.
be,
And is everyone agree that we could possibly come up with some ideas to put on our section for the TPSC, where we do have,
Absolutely.
safety for kids or
Yeah,
school safety or something, law
definitely.
enforcement, or, we could put it on our section on the city
on your
website.
webpage, yeah,
Yeah.
on things,
Webpage.
on priorities that
Right.
you're, yeah. So we can maybe I can put these on the list and you can narrow them down, or if
Okay.
there's some that are could be grouped together, you could
Okay.
group them and we could do that at your next meeting,
All right.
Okay.
okay?
There's some hand up there. I don't know what, I can't read
Oh.
from this far away because I don't have my glasses.
It
on.
is.
Oh, it's
It is.
Joel.
Oh, of course it is.
Counselor
Either
Lakey,
them.
it's not time for public comment.
Tell him no. Say no, Joel.
I was just
Counselor
gonna-
Licky, how
I was just gonna wait till public comment at the end. That's all.
I
put it
just
up there.
saw it. I didn't know it was you.
You know what? We only have community input, community concerns and comments at the beginning of the
Oh, okay.
agenda. But yeah, if you want to share something, we'll.
You're
I
allowed
just
to,
was just gonna
Counselor, go
share
ahead.
Some ideas for events, but that's fine. I can wait till next meeting to be proper about this.
Okay, or you could email the chair and we could, yeah.
No
Great,
worries.
thank- Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for noticing that. I'm supposed to watch that.
Okay.
I could,
Couldn't read
yeah,
it. I
it
could
was
see the
hard.
hand though.
Okay, so we'll have your next meeting, November 29th.
Yes.
I will remember to bring updates on the TSP each month. Next month, or at that meeting, Lieutenant Mendoza would like to give you guys a report on the county contract, how that works. And kind of bring you up to speed on where we're at with that. And I think plans for increasing the contract. And we're actually going to be, there's 3 contract cities, Wilsonville, Happy Valley, and Estacada. And we're going to be working next year, we're going to start updating the contract with the county that us 3 cities have with the county sheriff's office. And so we'll be working on that. We can loop you in too.
How long is that contract for the current one?
Yeah.
Do you know how long that is?
For the,
Or
For-
what are we gonna do starting the next one?
for
Are
the
we just
contract with the,
updating it?
yeah,
or-
we're just updating it. It's
Okay.
pretty, it goes on. I mean, it's pretty much indefinite
Okay.
until, we just have to give notice if we
Okay.
wanted to get out of it. Mhm,
Oh,
Mhm.
mhm. Yeah,
Does anyone have anything else? See, it's what, 7:45?
whoa, we went late.
I just have one thing, but I figured I'd bring it in and I can give it to Melanie. And she can send it to everyone. I don't have everyone's email. I just looked at some other public safety committees. And just drafted up something for our bylaws, since I know every committee has them here in Estacada. So I figured
Right.
Melanie has to show up again, so I figured I'd send it to her, and so it's pretty
Sure.
painless.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
so we can put those on the agenda.
okay.
We'll work on the priorities, or I should say you'll work on the priorities.
I have a quick question. So if we have anything, like those of us that aren't the chair, if there's anything that we want on the agenda, we reach out to Jim and Jim
Mhm.
reaches out to you.
Yep,
Okay.
and Jim and I will work on putting that agenda together. Yep.
Sounds good.
But you can also, any of you can feel free to email me if you have a
Okay.
question or something too. So it's not like, I don't want you to feel isolated.
Oh,
Jim
no.
is the one to go through to get to staff help. But I'm sure Jim would get you to the right person if you need assistance. And we'll try to keep you can decide what you want to do, but I'm a kind of a quick meeting person. I'd like to go between an hour and a half, just depending. I don't want to have your meetings go real long each time. If we're meeting each month, we can get through what you're working on and move on with it. But that'll be up to you guys too. So
Cool.
I'm excited about this.
Right.
Okay, Jim,
If there's anything else,
Yeah.
like to adjourn the meeting this evening, everyone in
any
favor?
other comments?
Favor?
Yeah, we're good.
All right,
Okay. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
adjourn the meeting. All right. Thank you for showing.